This work session meeting of the Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this work session regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was made by the posting on the bulletin board in the municipal building, posted on the township's website, and electronically transmitted to the officially designated newspapers, indicating that this work session regular meeting would take place via WebEx at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, September 28th, 2021.
Thank you. We could all join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
I pledge
to the
allegiance
flag
to the flag
of the United
of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and justice
liberty,
for all.
justice for all.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I can remind everyone to please stay muted. We are getting some feedback, so everybody needs to be muted unless you're speaking. Thank you.
And Mr. McQueen, if you can promote Mr. Dalton. Oh, he's there. Thank you. Councilwoman Pruitt, if you could perform the invocation.
As we gather here today as members of the Township Council, let us be ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas, and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Here.
Councilman Chase?
Here,
Councilwoman Francois?
Here.
Mayor Kramer?
Here.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
yeah,
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Here.
Councilwoman Udine? I didn't hear her.
We're not hearing you, Councilwoman. Got some technical problems.
Okay.
She's
Yep.
obviously saying yes.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Here.
Councilman Wright?
Okay. Everyone can please mute. There's an echo. Item Accommodations and Proclamations. So I have a commendation and I'm going to be helped by Ryan Dalton. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, that's right, Mayor.
He came to me shortly after the storm or came to me via electronically and told me about the heroic efforts of many people, and you're going to hear all their names. Settle back. This will take a little while, but they deserve to have their names read out. And he gathered up all the names, and our clerk wrote our commendation, and I'm going to read it. Whereas on September 4th and 5th, 2021, people gathered from all communities in Franklin Township with a common goal and cause to help those who experienced great loss during Tropical Storm Ida. And whereas the Somerset Fire and Rescue, Middle Bush Fire Department, East Franklin Fire Department, Community Fire Department, and Millstone Valley Fire Department came together and opened their firehouses to be satellite donation centers to help those in Manville Borough, and with firehouses being filled to capacity, they were able to help other communities in both Middlesex and Somerset counties. And whereas the companies and agencies provided transport of donations to the communities in need of help, Restacare, Olympus Construction, DeSalle Excavation, Grigstown Fire Department, and Tri-Tech Tool and Design. And whereas the following assisted in the mission of gathering the donations to those in need or assisted in help with those in need, the Community Fire Department Station 25,
Herman Calvo, Tom Cusimano, John Murata, Glenn Charney, Austin Pinella, Daniel McCall, Richard Reese, Cesar Ovando, Roy Mundy, Nick Torres, Ryan Pinella, Jessica Jerome, Austin Pinella, Prangel Marfathia, Gabriel Nazario, Lou Pinella, Xavier Burton, Michael Lassard, and Michael Duran.
And the Elizabeth Avenue Fire Department, Station 26.
Bill Weber, Keith Burton, and Allison Fenton.
The East Franklin Fire Department, Station 27.
Anthony Johnson, Bernie Marquez, Alan Latanzio Jr., Ryan Doughton, and Heather Netta.
And the Millstone Valley Fire Department, Station 28.
Ryan Hunt, Chris Ziobro, Matt Leonard, and Kevin Jerzewski.
Middlebush Fire Department, Station 44.
Christopher Goldberg, Megan Kingston, Brendan Amos, Daniel Lappin and his fiance, Sam, Paul Miller, Matt Lappin and the Lappin family, Taylor Bennett, Alex Paff, Bill Coughlin, Greg Phillips and his wife, Cy, Dawn Cuddy, Chris Ryer, Bob Cuddy, Tim Simborski, Tommy Del Castle, Nick Volpe, Thomas DeGangi, Jay Patel, Dennis Diziak, Mary Kate Bonzita and her 2 children, and Joseph Grennan.
The Southbound Brook Fire Department, Station 55.
Josh Carlton,
The Somerset Fire and Rescue Station 56.
Troy Armstrong, Ed Kuhn, Skylar Tucker, Matt Flapper, Bill King, Chuck Maria, Tyler Katzenbach, Dave Summers, Chris Giannato, Hannah Tucker, Matt Giannato, Nicole Kelly, Nick Giannato, Alice Kelly, Louis Mansilla, Art Weber, Garrett Leung, Lenny Kosensky, Zachary Lubner, Kimberly Giannato, Mike Kraus, Dawn Summers, Mike Reinbeck, Laura Thompson, Alan Grosso, Kristen Gorig, Michael Lessick, Eddie Shabak Jr., and Jeff Erickson.
Street Cop Training.
Dennis Benino.
Now, therefore, I, Philip Kramer, Mayor of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the Township Council and its residents, hereby recognize and commend the above for their tireless efforts in helping their community and other communities in their time of need resulting from Tropical Storm Ida. Do you have something to say?
Yes, I do, Mayor. So I'd like to say that this started out as a very small gathering of donations by 2 individuals in specific. That's Troy Armstrong and Zachary Lubner from the Somerset Fire and Rescue Station 56 Fire Department, who used to be Manville residents and grew up in Manville. And this turned out to be a much donation gathering and donation distribution than we could have anticipated. This took about 72 hours to put together, and all hands were on deck all 72 hours to gather donations and distribute donations. And today, on September 28th, we still have donations left over that donation drive. So I want to thank everybody that participated and helped out. This was not one individual in particular, but an entire team. And thank you, Mayor Kramer, for giving me this time to speak and making sure that these, most of the time, unrecognized deeds do not go unrecognized.
Well, we owe you a debt of gratitude. That this is how a community gets through these kinds of things, by being a community. So thank you very much for your efforts with the storm and your efforts year round.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And if it's okay with everybody, I am going to have to leave this meeting unfortunately early because I have to go to a Chiefs meeting.
That's great.
So thank you for your time, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We're on to public discussion. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening the meeting to the public, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We're opening the meeting to the public. We'll allow 3 minutes a person. No yielding of time. Please state your name and address. Everyone may come up only once. Mr. McQueen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody from the public wishing to speak, we ask to use the chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 by telephone. We ask that when you're done making comments, you use the same procedure to lower your hand. So again, chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 on the telephone. Caller is 908-305. You are unmuted. 908-305.
Yes, thank you. This is Jim Johnston at 34 Norwich Place. Excuse me. Thank you to everybody who helped out, who helped the communities during the storm Ida. Thank you very much. I wanted to mention another example of overdevelopment. A few days ago, they said that on Elizabeth Avenue, I think it's 475 Elizabeth Avenue, which is now a wetland, they're going to build a storage facility on there. So that's another example. Excuse me. That's another example of overdevelopment. And then there's the ongoing situation on South Middlebush Road. Now, during the past few weeks, in the news, you've been hearing about a disruption to the global supply chain, and there's shortages, there's labor shortages, shortages of truck drivers. In Great Britain, they have food shortages. They have and so on, and that could easily happen in this country too. Like for example, off the coast in California, off the coast of New Jersey and New York, the cargo ships are now unable to offload their cargo because of the labor shortages in the dock workers. So all these things going on, it underscores the need to preserve our local supply of food. Preserve the agricultural land on South Middlebush Road to ensure that we have a local supply of food in case there is a global supply chain disruption. So these are, I think that would be a good idea to look into that because you never know what could happen, and so it would be. I think we should take that into consideration. And okay, so that's basically what I wanted to say. Besides the environmental concern and the concern about overdevelopment, there's also the concern about preserving our agricultural land for that reason. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McQueen.
Yes, Mr. Guy, you are unmuted.
Yes, how you doing? Benjamin Guy, 35 Patton Drive. I was calling in reference to two things. One is I was trying to get an update on any other additional programs that the town council is going to be rolling out for support for Ida victims. I know we did the debris cleanup, but I was trying to see if there's any other programs that the town council is going to do, because I know we still got to build it. We still got some bridges that might need to be repaired based on what the county reported. Potentially for Marigold and everything else. And I know potentially over on River Road, there were still some families that were affected. I mean, not River Road, on Canal Road, that was actually probably still affected during the time frame. And I wanted to see exactly what else the township was actually going to be doing. The second reporting thing I actually try to find out is that being that we're going into we're going into the fall season for things, and we actually canceled Franklin Day. I wanted to try to see where the town council was at with additional things that they're actually doing and supporting during this period of time frame. Because just for planning activities, I would like to see where the town is actually at with that specific portion, as far as hosting events and supporting other events in the area. The other thing is, I would like to try to get an update on budgetary stuff from specifically Mr. Vornlocker about where we're currently at for appropriations for COVID relief money, CARES Act money specifically for this period of time frame, and what the plan of action is to actually work with other community groups to actually support what they're doing going forward. And then the third portion is the last portion is to get an update on the youth center, exactly where we currently are, because I know we had I talked to Miss Francois briefly, but I wanted to get an update on exactly what the reports were with the youth center and exactly what the stages are with actually remediating the problems that we're actually with the youth center actually getting open, so that we can actually get a report for that currently at all. So those are the basic things that I actually want to discuss, just get a report on.
Thank you, Mr. Guy. Is that it?
Mr. Mayor, we have caller 732-469. 732-469, you are unmuted.
Hi, yes, I spoke to Councilwoman Stephan Uddin. She's been very, very nice speaking with me. We have concerns of, I've been calling since June, and
Excuse me, can you
the
state,
neighbors.
excuse me, can you state your name and address?
Oh, sure, I'm so sorry. Teresa Katzbaum, 565 Equator Avenue in Somerset. I'm off of St. George Street from Garfield. There's two of them, so I think this is where the communication is lacking. Well, anyhow, I spoke to her. I sent her pictures that all the stop signs, the signs are down, and, the name of our streets have been down for months. And I've been calling the Borough Public Works since June, and so has my neighbors, and they didn't come and fix it. And then I finally spoke to one of your councilwomen, so she's been very, very nice. She had them come by, which they were here, but the weeds are going onto the street. Like, generally the machine comes down and cuts so many inches away from the street, so the weeds aren't on the street and the stop signs and all. They took care of over the bridge on you go over the bridge, which is Equator, and then it hits Garfield. But then there's another Equator, which is St. George, and then Equator. I sent her pictures of the stop signs and yield signs. Everything was covered, like you couldn't even see the signs in that. So they did come last week and cut down the edging of all the wood area so it's not onto the street behind us, but they never came over to the Equator over on our side. They must have did the one over on Garfield up over the bridge. So we were concerned of that, of when we could be cut. Like, they were supposed to do the whole thing, but I think they probably apparently forgot, because she was very nice and sent them out right away. They came the next day and they took care of it. But again, they did not do St. George and our Equator. She has a bunch of pictures to see what, I had, sent her and stuff. And I thank her very much for her time. So she told me to call in to you and if you can get that work. The bugs and the pet control, it's terrible. You can't even be walking down the road because the weeds are over into the street, and it's horrible. And then when you're driving your car down, you got to go along. Okay.
Hello?
So that's all I wanted to say. So I hope somebody can come and, take care of it for us.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I can address some of this. So, ma'am, this is an ongoing project. There's not only the Public Works Department involved in this, but also the Police Department, and quite possibly, as we get into this, the Health Department. Some of this property maintenance is the responsibility of the property owners themselves. We have a municipal ordinance that requires certain actions taken by property owners with things like signs on their property, where those things are required to be maintained and unblocked at intersections. So the Police Department Traffic Safety Bureau is also conducting an investigation. The street signs are being made in-house by our sign shop, And so all of those things are being addressed. Councilwoman Udine and I did have several conversations about this. And I can just convey to you that the Public Works Department, the Police Department, and if necessary, the Health Department, where maintenance of properties is required, would also be involved. I've had conversations with the Traffic Safety Sergeant, as well as the Public Works Manager about this, and it's not forgotten. And I went through your neighborhood today, just for what it's worth. I live a couple blocks away from you, so I'm in that neighborhood quite often. And so I'm one of your neighbors. So I will give you my assurance that the project is not complete, and they will be out to continue to do the work necessary to make the improvements that you requested.
The weeds in general this year have been out of control. We've got a
They
lot
have
of
been.
rain, a lot of heat. It's Public Works has had quite a battle. Mr. McQueen.
Yes, Mr. Himanshu Patel, you are unmuted now. Himanshu Patel.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Himanshu Patel. I live at 5 Renoir Way in Somerset. That's Renoir, Renoir. My concern is in regards to the water basin that we had across in our community. So we're the community at the corner of Treptow and Cedar Grove Lane. And in the last 2 years that they have allowed the NJDEP to come in and convert that area to a natural reserve, right? Now, ever since they created that, I've been contacting the NJDEP and the township to do something about it, because now there is no water drainage anymore, right? And after the storm, the whole water basin across the street from my house is empty, yet my backyard is filled with 2 feet of water. And I have pictures and videos to kind of share. And I've also shared that information with Councilman Ram and Councilwoman Udine, who have also visited us in our neighborhood as well. And now with the overgrown shrubs and bushes and weeds over there, and we also have lots of mosquito because there's water that retains there. It's not draining out, and they've when they did this, they've installed a 3-inch pipe to allow a whole township's drainage system. I'm sorry, the whole neighborhood's drainage system to allow that water to drain out. And if that 3-inch pipe is covered with, 3-4 feet of high weeds and shrubs, it's not going to let any water through. I understand the intention was to let the water sit there for a couple of days, but now it's to a point where our storm drains are backed up, and you could look in them that after it rains that they're up to like almost 6 feet deep, and the across the street where the storm drain is supposed to drain out, it's empty, right? So I don't know what else can we do. I've submitted several tickets to the DPW at the request of Councilman Ram and Councilwoman Udine, and I have folks that come out here, they take videos and they take pictures, and they say that they will follow up after they talk to their manager. But we've never had anybody come back and let us know with the outcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. Do you want to address this?
So I will. Councilman Ambarrison and Councilwoman Udine certainly brought this to our attention, and we understand that the residents in the area have a concern. This was actually not a New Jersey DEP project. It was a New Jersey Water Supply Authority project to improve water quality standards on drainage. And, we're going to talk about this most recent storm, and what was found was that the basin functioned exactly as it was designed. And what I had suggested, and I did convey this to Councilman Ambarrison and Councilwoman Udine, and they can certainly, we can have more conversations with Mr. Patel and his neighbors. What I had requested, and is already in the works, is to have the design engineers meet with the residents and have a discussion with them about how this basin is supposed to function. its purpose and why it is the way it is. And so that's in the process of being done. That's the best I can do right now. I'm not an engineer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McQueen.
Yes, anybody else from the public wishing to speak? We ask that you use chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone. Hold on. Okay. Toby Metal, you are unmuted.
Yes, good evening. Just wanted to echo Mr. Patel's concerns regarding the residents in the
excuse me.
area.
Excuse
Can you
me.
hear me okay?
We can, but we need your name and address.
Oh, excuse me. Toby Metal, address is 3 Renoir Way.
Thank you.
Again, no, you're welcome. I was just echoing with Mr. Patel's comments, if we could arrange that meeting with the residents here in the Renoir Way area to understand how the water basin should work. I think it would be very, very helpful, especially given what's happening with storms and the reoccurrence of them. So that would be very helpful. We could get that on the calendar soon. Thank you.
And I agree completely. That's why I thought that was the only way that we could kind of get to where it needs to be. And that we have now requested dates from the design engineers for the New Jersey Water Supply Authority. So as soon as we have them, I'll give them to the council persons and we can get it out to the residents in the neighborhood.
And I can bear witness that Councilman Ambarasan, Councilwoman Udine, and the manager have been all over this. They've all talked to me about this. I know they're talking to each other. They are focused on this. Mr. McQueen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, anybody else from the public wishing to speak? We ask to use the chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone. Mr. Mayor, I do not, hold on.
Ramon,
Yep.
yeah.
Got it now. Roman, you're unmuted.
Hi, good evening. My name is Uma Raman. I live in 5 Rue Cezanne. I did want to echo Mr. Patel's concerns as well. It is a big concern for all the neighbors here and the community members, so appreciate your expedited attention to this.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? We ask to use the chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone. You've already spoken. We ask that you use the same to lower your hand. Mr. Mayor, I do not see anybody else indicating they wish to speak at this time.
I'm looking at it myself. I too do not see anything. Anyone else? Do we have a motion to close public session?
Motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. I'm checking one more time. I see no one. Public portion is closed. We are now on to council discussion or council comments and reports. As I've promised in the past, Mr. Wright, go ahead. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Wright. We'll come back to you if you're having technical difficulties. Councilwoman Pruitt.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. We had a public safety meeting along with yourself and Councilman Wright and Massanella. I did want to report out a couple things. So I want to start out with the events. So on October 9th, there will be a drive up food distribution in Naaman Williams Park starting at 11 a.m. and they will continue this distribution until there is no more food to be distributed. So just to reiterate, on October 9th, it is a drive up or a drive through food distribution. On October 23rd, the county will be hosting a gun buyback program in Franklin Township. It'll be at First Baptist Church, and that will run from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please be on the lookout for more information. The police department will be promoting that, as well as I believe the county. But again, it'll be Saturday, October 23rd. The county is hosting a gun buyback program at First Baptist Church. And speaking of church, the police department is interested in starting their chaplain program. So they wanted to extend an invite to all of the faith-based denominations that are in the town, encourage them to be involved. The police director, Quavella Sproul, has asked that any interested parties reach out to her directly. You can always call the main number for the police department and ask to be routed to the police director, but Director Sproul had asked that interested parties in the chaplain program reach out. The last thing that I wanted to discuss, and I think this is really important, not only because it's a mandate, but also speaks to a commitment to transparency and safety, is the body-worn cameras. So as many of you know, the body-worn cameras are mandated in the state of New Jersey.
Councilwoman, start that again. You got cut off for a little bit.
Okay, body-worn cameras.
Yes, your last statement.
Okay, so as many of you know, body-worn cameras are mandated by the state now. Our department is on track. It was a capital item. They have received the body-worn cameras. They are in the building. The department is working with the vendor and IT to set up the back end stuff. And once they are all set up and as they're moving forward through the process, I'll keep you updated through public safety meetings and the public safety report out. So again, I just wanted to highlight that, or we wanted to highlight that, because it's really, really important and adds to the transparency and safety that we're speaking to for our police department. And that is all I have to report. Oh, excuse me. I did have a senior advisory meeting last Friday. It was really nice to connect again with the seniors. It's been a minute since I've been able to be at one. There are a couple of questions that we'll have to work out, and I think will happen offline, but I did want to acknowledge there was a senior advisory meeting. And this is a little bit off topic, but I just wanted to make a comment, and I guess in solidarity for some of our residents that may have family from or may be from Haiti. I know that a couple weeks ago, there were really upsetting images coming out from that area. And there was a bit of silence and there was some concern about that, but I did wanted to express my outrage on those photos and how folks have been treated down there. So I just wanted to just speak that out and articulate that for any of our residents that are from Haiti or have family from or identify as Haitian Americans, that, you know, I see you and support you. So Mayor, that is all that I think I have. And I'll try not to take a second bite out of the apple like one of our other colleagues if I remember something. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Charles Onechaka. You're muted, Councilman.
Okay. You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay. The land development that's around this area in the third ward that was hit by the storm. The residents expressed satisfaction on the township response to the last storm. They were very, very happy the way and the manner the township, most especially the council and the manager, responded. And also they were very, very happy with the coordination that involves our police during that period. So the involvement was absolutely very, very nice to them. So everybody is happy. Things are returning back to normal in that area. So at the same time, I really want to thank everybody that helped to bring my neighbors and residents back to normalcy. That is one. So the second one is our picnic. I want to use this privilege to thank the JFK Club for organizing such a beautiful picnic and inviting our chief executive to have the picnic with us. And at the same time, I give a special thanks to our assemblyman, Joe Donaldson, for his yearly pizza. And this year's pizza was exceptionally good. So, Mayor, this is what I have for the night, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
Get myself off of mute. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did want to acknowledge the Somerset Fire and Rescue, the Middlebush Fire Department, the East Franklin Department, the Community Fire Department, and Millstone Valley Fire Department for all of their efforts to provide the donation centers and to get the donations to those in need. I think that was a very commendable effort, and we appreciate people in the community working towards assisting and helping those in need. So I think that was great that you gave the proclamation accommodation, because I wasn't aware of all of that. And you know, clearly we need to give shout outs to people, things to help others in such a great crisis that we experienced a couple weeks ago. I did want to address Mr. Ben's guy's question about the youth center. So I had read out at the last council meeting that we were going to do a soft opening on October 1st, Friday, October 1st, and on Saturday, October 2nd. Given the Delta variant virus uptake and the fact that we were going to also spend the Franklin Festival Day, we decided that we were going to postpone the soft opening of the youth center. So as of now, we don't have a soft opening date or a grand opening date. What we do know for a fact is that all the construction has been completed. There is some, the state still has to come out and inspect the elevator and the fire alarm. There are a couple punch list items that are underway that have to be inspected as well. So the youth center at this point in time is not ready to be open, and we do not have a date for that. What we are doing, however, is we are transferring some virtual programs so that when we do and are ready to open up the youth center, we'll have these programs up and running. And we're also taking on memberships in the high school and in the middle school, so that when we do open up, we'll have the youth already signed up. So when the building opens, we'll see a lot of youth coming in the building. So that's what's going on with the youth center. We feel like we've waited this long to have it open. When we open it, we'll have a grand opening. Everybody will be happy. All the furniture will be there. All the construction will be complete. We'll be ready to go. We'll have programs ready and up and running. We'll have the staff in place. And so people just need to be patient a little bit longer until we're ready to open up the youth center. He also mentioned he wanted to know what other programs are out there. Are we planning? Last year we did not do a trunk or treat, but we really don't want to disappoint the young people, the little people, as I call them. And so we're thinking about planning to have the trunk or treat over at Neiman Williams Park on October 30th. It will be hosted by the Hamilton Street Advisory Board, as well as the Franklin Township Recreation Department. So we're looking at doing some social distancing. That's why we're moving it over to the park. We're going to try to be creative about how we're passing out candy in the trunks and spreading out the cars and what have you. So we decided today that we would go forward with trunk or treat. And so I know that the young people will be looking for, we don't want to cancel Halloween for the little people. So that's what we're planning to do October 30th. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. I thought you were referring to me when you said the little people. Councilman Ambarasan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right up the top, like to recognize our township manager for putting together a very well-executed debris collection program in town. I think I've been in touch with him throughout the last 2 weeks, and as I hear from residents about uncollected debris, I would contact him by text or email, and I think that process worked really well. And I think without much, I guess, delay or trouble, I think the entire town has been served really well. Good job, Township Manager Bob and his staff. I want to recognize them at this time. In terms of committee meetings, there was one Human Relations Commission. We met on the 22nd. The guest speakers were the two new principals, Franklin High School and Franklin Park principals came in, and they talked about the mission and the goals of for the current year, especially when all the kids are in school in person this year. So they talked about all the challenges and how they managed to carry out their programs. And of course, the HRC continues to work with Councilwoman Francois on coordinating some of the upcoming activities there. True to the diversity of our township, I attended a number of events in the last week to 10 days. One of them was an unveiling of a Nobel laureate poet of India who wrote the national anthem. His name is Tagore. The Ananda Mandir, the temple on Cedar Grove Lane, had a statue unveiling. Many dignitaries came over, including the Consul General of Consulate in New York City, and Congressman Malinowski, our Assemblyman, and our Councilwoman Shipa Udin also was in attendance. So it was a well-attended event. Very good to see the poet recognized in our town. Really a great honor. Also, there was food bank as they started a golf a fundraising event on the 20th. We raised some money along with my friend Vimal Sudani, the Sudani Foundation. We bought a pellet for the food bank because they had exhausted the 10 pallets of food in the basement in the bunker. So they wanted to replenish that. So we were sponsoring a pellet and $1,000 a pop. I think they collected about 50,000 at the event. It was a huge, huge success. Lots of local business folks and other citizens participated and had played golf, and we had a nice dinner. So it was an overall a good day for food bank in terms of collections. And the Sudani Foundation also donated $3,000 to the Board of Education last week. So I was there when they did the donation. That would go towards an innovation challenge of the high school kids that the school system is going to put together. And I believe that's going to be an annual event. The foundation is going to continue to support that. And of course, last Sunday, again, the International Peace Day was celebrated at the Buddhist Vihara on the Route 27 premises. This is the Somerset County Diversity Coalition and Lions Club and Rotary Club in conjunction with them. They put that event together. They really celebrated the diversity of our town. So it was very fitting that they chose our town to celebrate the International Peace Day. Performers, artists representing many countries all over the world came and performed. It's a nearly a 2.5 hour program done very well, and it was very well attended by many residents as well as people from outside our town. And that's all I can think of at this moment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Shipa Udine.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Can you guys all hear me clearly? Yeah, okay, perfect. So I have a brief report. I think the first one is probably a common one that we're all talking about, which is the flood damage that occurred a couple weeks ago, and just the process of working with our residents, making sure that we had our pickups curbside communicated. I think the entire channel and just the process how this worked out. I think the township manager and the whole staff did a phenomenal job. I think just alone, I think from my end, I know I've sent about, I don't know, 30, 40 emails directly to Mr. Frohnlacher, and he attended to every single one with a note that it was on schedule. So I want to thank him for that and his staff. I know that Ward 2 specifically, I saw trucks out here. I think that the pickups have been taken care. And I'll wait to hear from him if there's a second round that's going on. But I know most of the residents have reached out to me and said that their stuff was picked up. So thank you. We did have one meeting, land use meeting, last week, I believe, and it was a small agenda. So I will let Councilman Wright and Councilman Chase talk to those 2 points that we were talking about. I also attended the unveiling of Rabindranath Tagore over last Sunday with Councilman Ram. It was a very nice event, and we enjoyed seeing the statue here in Somerset, and we were greeted by a lot of our residents. So thank you for inviting me to that event. I also attended the JFK Community Picnic. I think it speaks for itself. I think the weather, just the social distancing and food, and just seeing a lot of familiar faces after a very long time. I think that was a very nice event that was managed by that club. The other thing that I do want to mention out is so I'm working with a lot of communities, and I think I can report on the next one on more detailed. I am working with county and the community on trying to roll out some vaccination for the 3rd booster. So you will hear more about that status in the coming weeks. I still don't have all the information. It's all preliminary right now. But I think we're doing some great work with the residents here. So definitely we'll be in touch to give you guys updates. Other than that, I've been meeting with our residents, doing check-ins and just making sure that, the residents have a source of connection where they have questions, they can reach out directly to me. And I was accompanied by our mayor for one of the sessions, and I think we got really good feedback from residents on just the flood debris and the pickup status and what's been going on with our town. And I think that's about it. I just, one point to make to Kimberly about the youth center. If I end up being there, you might have to kick me out because it sounds so awesome. So just giving you a heads up.
Thank you, Councilwoman Udine. Councilman Professor Dr. Ted Chase. You're muted, sir. Still can't hear you.
Perhaps I should let Councilman Wright speak about the land use committee meeting. I find I have no notes on it. One thing I wanted to respond to Jim Johnson, he mentioned planning board approval of a storage facility on Elizabeth Avenue. The address is actually 471. It is not on wetlands. It's where there is at present a landscaping business. There will be a lot more trees on the property when the development is finished than there are now. And it's just something I have to explain to the public, that if a given use is permitted by our zoning ordinance, then the site plan approval goes to the planning board, and we can tell them things that they ought to do, such as having an electric charging station, and whether they need to put in a sidewalk in front and maybe more trees and various things like that. But we cannot deny an application of the only way that it can be denied is if it requires a variance, and the variance is so serious that they can't do what they propose to do unless they get the variance, which has happened once in my 25 years on the planning board. Now, the zoning board generally can turn things down, but it's very dicey with respect to houses of worship because there's federal legislation. They have to be treated the same as any other permitted use, and they are generally a permitted use in, I think, all districts. One thing I do want to report on that the Environmental Commission is working on is joining a national program called Adopt a Drain, which tries to sign up people who will check the drain grates in their street regularly and clean them off if they get choked up with leaves. I do this for a couple of drains down Old Georgetown Road from my home. But if we join this national program, records of it are kept on a computer at Hamline University in Minnesota. You get instructions from there on how to do this and how to report, and it's all reported. And this will save the Public Works Department from having to do this kind of cleaning. It will minimize the cleaning out of catch basins that they have to do from time to time. So I will keep the public aware when we're really ready to go on this program. We have, of course, a ordinance coming up to acquire some property for open space at the corner of Couple Mine Road and Old Georgetown Road. And you remember from the last council meeting, the complaints of Ms. Kapso-Kefalos about the hunting, hunters walking right by her property, a few feet from where she eats breakfast at an outside table. The Open Space Committee has discussed this, and we're not going to allow hunting on the property for now because we're really not prepared. In particular, we don't have a parking area, and we are looking into creating a parking area directly off Route 518, sufficiently far from any homes there that the hunters will be able to use. And I've looked at the property some myself, along with Chuck Martin from the Open Space Committee, and others from the Open Space Committee will come out there and make recommendations about placement of the parking lot and how much trail we need to construct back from it to get hunters back into the woods. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Try again, Councilman Wright.
He was right there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had some technical difficulties that I think I've worked out. Sorry about that. I'll get right to it. I've had several complaints in the neighborhood about trucks idling at various locations in town. Now, I know we have ordinance on the books for this. I talked to our township manager, Mr. Vornlocker, and what he advised me was that if the residents see something, please say something. The police will respond to your request about the truck wherever it's located. And I want to make sure I say this properly, but I think I heard not only the property owner, but the truck driver will be held responsible. I think the township manager will clean up anything that I said wrong later on. Trash removal in the fourth ward has caused some concern. Various locations, various reasons ranging from miscommunications to late pickups, to residents placing trash out late, to contractor missing area. The township manager and I solved the issue, and as anything, it's better late than never. On the good side, a ravine that I've helped fix, work on, tried to complete the last 4 or 5 years is now done. Behind Phillips Road, the houses behind Phillips Road, the residents are happy. The upgrade is nice. I went to look at it and take a lot of pictures that I'll show whenever we come back in person. But the one thing that was nice about it, but then at the same time kind of funny, other residents came to see the ravine. They looked at it, they loved it. They called me and said, "Hey, Carl, when are you coming to my neighborhood to put the same thing in?" So that was kind of a beautiful thing. I told them, this was special. The houses were actually, the backyards were actually falling into the ravine. But as any good councilman, I'm going to go right on out there and look to see if there's comparable to what we just had, and talk to the township manager about that. I believe we're waiting for a grant to do this, but we'll talk about that one later. We're still waiting for an upgrade from RPM to discuss what is their next phase and how we want to do it. Now, we had some preliminary discussion with Councilman at Large Francois, and we have to look at that real closely because, as I said to everyone there, what we build 20, 30 years from now, someone is going to be left to live there. And they're going to say, "I'm glad they did this, and I'm not happy they did that." So the proper balance between the two is very important to me. I take that very seriously. Forget the fact that I live directly in the middle of the redevelopment area. So there's redevelopment going all around me. I want to make sure that I do it right the first time because there is no second time. And Mr. Mayor, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just amplify what Councilman Wright said about the no idling signs. We have an ordinance in preparation for no idling signs to be required at warehouses. They're not required at other places such as, say, a 7-Eleven or other convenience store, but not only the truck drivers can be cited, but the property owner. If the property owner does have a no idling sign up, then they cannot be cited. And the county health department has a regular program for checking wherever idling may be occurring. Arnold Schmidt, who's on the Environmental Commission, who was in the Union County Health Department for 30 years, tells us about this. The county has a specific program, state funded, for checking on idling.
Thank you. Yes, I eagerly await the idling, change to the idling ordinance. Last but not least, our Deputy Mayor, James Fasanella.
Thank you, Mayor. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so just a few things. We're really blessed in Franklin to have the amount of volunteer organizations we do, especially in the way of first responders. You know, I heard some of the names there, and although we welcome and need new people and new residents, I hear names that you can tell their families have been involved 3 generations, maybe even a 4th. But I want to personally thank, and I know all of council is grateful to the work that all of our fire departments, first aid squads, etc., do down, and obviously really coming through for us in this most recent weather event. So you are really blessed. Okay, public safety meeting. Councilwoman Pruitt gave us the information. Just want to mention, you know, this year is probably, I'm going to say, as much, if not more, traffic on the road now that school's open. Last year obviously was much different since there was so much virtual learning. Just drive safely. The last few weeks, I noticed quite a bit of hecticness on the roads, and just ask that people are aware that the amount of traffic is obviously increased recently, and please be extra careful with school and school children out and about. It was mentioned earlier about the drains, about the storm drains, and I just wanted to reference that. You know, a lot of times you see people, especially if the drains are by their house, that they're out there and somewhat regular basis maintaining them, and that's fine. But if you do see the storm drains, especially at this time of year, because of the well, besides the rain, but the leaves that will be falling. If you're not comfortable, please don't go out there and start fiddling around with the storm drain. I like the idea of that program that was mentioned. Perhaps that will be key going forward. But if you have any concern or see a drain starting to get clogged up, even if it's not fully, the manager will give you the exact information. I believe you can go to the portal and or call directly. But it is important that those storm drains are kept clear. And ultimately, we will get out there and do it. Our Public Works Department will take care of it. If there's any houses that were left out of the equation by just whatever accident or falling through the cracks that may have happened, again, I'm going to let the manager speak on this, but I'm not sure if we're technically finished, if now we're doing just a pass through again, but I echo the comments that were made about it being done well, considering what we had to deal with. But if there are any houses, the manager will give you a specific instruction on how to contact the town so that we can make sure it's done as we wrap up cleaning up the remnants of Ida. Believe that was it, Mayor. Just checking my notes here. I believe that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. For my comments, they're on my extensive notes here. As the councilman just alluded to, the pickup is over. We discovered a street that was missed yesterday and a street that was missed today. We took care of those. You know, contact us if your street was missed, but if you're just now getting to put out your debris, that's too late. We've given plenty of notice. 1,200 families at least were served by this. Probably more than that, 1,200 signed up, but you didn't have to sign up if they came to pick up your neighbors and they saw yours, they picked it up. What was the count? About 8,500 cubic yards?
I'll be giving all of that in my report, Mr. Mayor.
Figured you would. Thought I'd steal a little thunder. On a sadder note, those of you who watch the numbers, New Jersey passed 1 million people infected by COVID today. It's now 1 million officially on their site, 1,067,000, which comes out to roughly 10% of the state having been infected. And coincidentally, we are almost exactly at 10% of the state of the township being infected. 70% of people, according to the state website, 70% of people in Franklin are fully vaccinated. I take it with a bit of a grain of salt because 4 weeks ago, 106% of those over 65 in Franklin were fully vaccinated, and now it's down to 104%. So obviously they've got their denominator a little messed up there. I've heard a couple of comments of questioning why did we cancel Franklin Day, but we're allowing the Friday night music festival events. Government is, what I've learned about government is it's often about nuance. You know, you can't use one big sledgehammer to hit everything. The difference between the two is really maybe 200 people are going to show up to the Friday night event, but we were expecting at any one time 2,000 people to be at the Franklin Day Festival, and with a turnover, so even more than that. That's an order of magnitude difference, and that's why we backed away from it. There was going to be another soft opening, and that was the community center in the area that used to be called the Consolata building. It is now the BOE building, but it has been dedicated to the community center, and Councilman Only Jaka has been very involved in getting that open. But because of COVID, we thought it would be a much diminished opening, so that has been put off. And it is still rentable, but the actual festivity will probably be sometime next year. The bridges in Franklin are well, except for one. All bridges in Franklin are maintained by the county or the state, and they're inspected by them, maintained by them, etc. The one bridge that is still out is the one on Magnolia. That one had extensive damage. They had to stop working on it for a little while because another bridge somewhere else, not in town, was in such bad shape that they were afraid it was going to fall down and hit a building. But they're back on Magnolia. It's going to be at least a couple of weeks. I think my guess is the people on Magnolia are thrilled because it's a cut through street, and they're probably getting some peace and quiet. The last thing I want to discuss is this is a political year, local races, and we have a strict sign ordinance. That sign ordinance says you cannot put signs in front of open space, on municipal property or BOE property, basically government property. I have talked to both of the party chairmen in town, telling them that I was going to make this announcement tonight, or this request tonight. I'm requesting that the manager begin taking down any signs that are put up illegally. When they take them down, they're not going to destroy them. They're going to put them in the garage-like area near the library that's part of the municipal building. And this includes any of the people on this screen now signs, doesn't matter. As was alluded to, the governor came to a picnic at Middlebush Park this weekend. Someone put up Murphy signs along the way at the entryway to the park. I personally took them down because we have an ordinance and we like to stick to the ordinance. So the governor was not greeted by a row of signs when he came in. So, Mr. Manager, I hope you can help us with that. those are the rules. Those are my comments. So township manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a result of the council comments, I have several things to report back on. I will get to the debris report last, just so I can cover a couple quick things. In answer to Mr. Guy's question about CARES Act money, I think it's been reported a number of times here at council meetings that the balance of the CARES Act money, which amounted to a little over $400,000, has been dedicated to job training. Our partners in that job training are the Greater Raritan Valley Workforce Development Board, Raritan Valley Community College, and the Somerset Community Action Program. The Somerset Community Action Program will be the administrator of the funds to assist people in receiving job training through Raritan Valley Community College and the Greater Raritan Valley Workforce Development Board. I know that as of today, Mark Harris, the executive director of the Somerset Community Action Program, had an opportunity to review the memorandum of understanding between the township and SCAP that was prepared by our CDBG grant coordinator, Deb Mitchell. And I believe he found everything in order, so we'll be able to move forward once SCAP is able to identify an employee who will be administering that program on behalf of the grant. So I believe that's moving forward. So again, I believe that's been reported several times here previously. As far as idling, I just want to clarify some things that were said. So it is a state law, not a municipal ordinance, but it is a state law that prohibits idling in certain circumstances. There are exemptions, but generally speaking, it prohibits idling for more than 3 minutes in a motor vehicle of any sort in the state of New Jersey. It is not limited to any particular location. It could be in your driveway, to be perfectly honest, and it's still a violation. So if people go out and start their car up in the winter to defrost their windows and leave it run for more than 3 minutes, technically they are in violation. As Councilman Chase alluded to, he is absolutely correct. And I believe also Councilman Wright, that if a property has a sign posted where indicating what the state law is regarding idling, then the property owner is immune to prosecution under the state statute, and only the vehicle operator can be prosecuted for a violation. If the property has no, and it is a commercial property and has no signage supporting the state law on idling, then in fact, both the property owner and the vehicle operator can be cited. As far as the ordinance, and I believe at this point, based on conversations that I've had with Mr. Healy, our Director of Planning, who's preparing the ordinance that will be part of our development ordinance, we believe that the idling sign requirement for new construction should be commercial developments, not limited to warehouses. And I believe that that's the way that the ordinance will be presented coming out of staff, is that all new construction, to include all new commercial construction, whether it be an office building, a warehouse, or commercial retail, would require the posting of anti-idling signs. The township has made the effort to post anti-idling signs on all township properties in support of this effort that the Environmental Commission has taken on. And I believe at this point, all properties have been posted, including township parks. So that's my update on idling. And now for debris removal. Yes, the debris removal, I would say, kind of came to a whimpering end this morning with the last 2 properties that had been identified last night being picked up. I am aware of about a half a dozen other properties that somehow or another slipped through the cracks, whether it was for a variety of reasons, to be perfectly honest. There were well over 1,500 homes that had debris picked up, some of them as a result of the company going through neighborhoods 2, 3, or 4 times in certain circumstances to ensure that all of the debris got picked up. A large concentration was in the northeastern portion of the 5th Ward and the northeastern portion of the 4th Ward in the areas of Franklin Boulevard and Easton Avenue that seemed particularly hard hit, as well as what Councilman Onachaka stated earlier, Somerset Glen in off of Route 27 in the Westminster Whitehall area was particularly hard hit as well, with a significant number of properties affected. The final tally as of last night on debris picked up was 8,285 cubic yards. And like I said, at about 1,500 properties, that works out to about 5 cubic yards on average per property. So cubic yard, figure 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet in a cube, right? So, 5 of them for each house on average. Some had much more, some had much less. The average daily collection was about 552 cubic yards, and the largest they collected was 1,189. I believe that 1,189 cubic yard day was the day that Somerset Glen off Route 27 was collected. Both the debris company and the monitoring company were very supportive and very cooperative. Like several council members and the mayor have said, I chose to be the point person on this project, primarily because there were many other things that needed to be done as a result of the aftermath of this tropical storm. The Public Works Department had many things to take care of, as did the Emergency Management Office. So I chose to assume the role of, I guess, project manager. I was once one of those here in Franklin Township, and I took on that role again because I felt like I needed to be as involved as I could. And so I would say just about everything went through me, whether it was coming out of the Public Works Department or the clerk's office or council members. So I had a great deal of communication, not only with staff and with the elected officials, but also residents who were in contact with my office with concerns that we might forget their neighborhood. I don't believe that we did. We used some kind of, advanced mapping and just the communication between myself and the people who were doing the job out in the field was very, very good and very frequent. So I believe that we got to everything that we could. I want everyone to understand that, this project was intended to last 2 weeks and it lasted 15 days. Today was day 15. There'll be some minor pickup tomorrow. Most of that will be handled by the Public Works Department. Like I said, there were a couple stragglers. One street that I believe was closed off due to a project on that street the day that the company was in that neighborhood to do pickups, and they weren't able to get down the street to pick up the piles. There's 3 piles on that street. I believe there's one on Easton Avenue left to be picked up, small one that Public Works will handle. But overall, I think that a great deal of work was done in a short period of time to try to minimize the impact to what I believe is over 1,500 residences here in Franklin. So company did a good job. As far as cost is concerned, we won't know for several weeks. The project is not done. So the pickup is only one part of the project. All of our debris was taken to a temporary debris management area in Hillsborough, where we shared that process with Somerset County, who was responsible for river flood debris in towns like Manville and Bridgewater and Branchburg, and a small portion of Franklin along Weston Canal Road. All of that debris now needs to be compacted and then reloaded into trucks and taken to trash transfer stations in South Jersey. That's anticipated to take about 2 weeks to have that process done before the entire project is complete, and then we can sit down and determine final cost. We were slightly under the estimates that we had originally budgeted for, but only slightly. It was about 9,500 cubic yards that we budgeted for, and we're probably going to hit about 8,500 when we're all said and done here. But we stuck to our 2 week time frame, and I think that I think that we've gotten, just about everything covered. So there's no questions for me. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. We're now on to council discussion item, Township Council Committee meeting format. Basically, this is, are we going to stay in a virtual meeting mode? Or are we going to go to in-person meetings? If the township attorney could talk to us about the options and the legalities of what's out there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the course of the last couple of months, I've, and certainly since the legislature passed and the governor signed into law about 90 days ago, a statute that terminated the public health emergency for most purposes. We were all operating, and by we all, I mean those of us who represent municipal governments and governing bodies in general, under the impression that the interim rules that were adopted by the Division of Local Government Services would allow us to continue to operate on a virtual platform only through the end of this month. Recently, my office has been in contact with the Division of Local Government Services, and we had an opportunity to talk to the deputy director of the division, who advised us that the division's position is that those rules remain in effect through the end of this year. The reason is rather convoluted, and I have to admit that it was a little bit of a new one for me, and maybe Councilwoman Pruitt, who comes kind of out of the same world that I did, might understand it a little bit. But the rationale goes something like this. The rules that they put into effect have not gone through the formal rule adoption process because they were temporary. And because even though on their face they seem to indicate that they would sunset at the end of this month, since they haven't been formally adopted yet, they haven't formally sunsetted yet, and they are still in effect as temporary rules. Now, I know that sounds like some crazy stuff, but that is the division's position. They cleared it with the Attorney General's office. And I want council to know that, part of this inquiry came from my kind of urging that there had to be some clear direction, and that either there had to be somebody in Trenton that had to give us clear direction, or they had to issue another local government notice formally extending the date. They don't feel the urgency to do that because of the Attorney General's interpretation of this rule, which, by the way, the rule is authorized by an amendment to the Open Public Meetings Act that took place I guess the early part of the pandemic, probably April or May of 2020, when the legislature there was one of the first acts they took when they came back and worked virtually. So the long and short answer, and I think this was both, is that the rule that you can remain virtual through the end of the year.
Okay, so right now, if we do nothing, my interpretation of it is that we are continuing in a virtual status.
Correct, and that's because the notice for your meetings was noticed for that purpose. And as you recall, we went one direction and then the other, but the published notice of your meetings has it as virtual. Correct, Anne Marie?
Virtual meeting notices go until the end of this month. I have ones ready for the rest of the year to go out and
So
be
the answer-
published on Friday.
So I stand corrected. So you will have to.
I have to notice all the boards and the township council for October through December.
Correct. And the land use boards have stayed virtual the whole time also. Is that correct?
Yes.
So does council, if council wanted to stay virtual, would they need to take a vote or just do nothing?
I believe that they would have to take a vote because Anne Marie is going to have to publish the new notices.
Okay, Thank you. So as is thank you for your comments, and your tour through government.
You're welcome.
So has been the habit of, this body when we're discussing COVID is I, give what I know about, what's going on. As people may recall, in July, mid-July, the numbers were really low, and council said, let's go back to in-person meetings, and literally on cue of that, the numbers started to come up. I see no difference in the numbers between August and now. It's basically a very steady climb. The Delta variant is out there. It is a risk. I think there's a lot you can do to mitigate the risk. And I think what I would fear is a full council chamber, not necessarily for our meetings, but maybe for a zoning or planning board meeting. And, you know, even if we require masks, I see it all day long, people wearing masks that come up to here. Shocking news, the NIH just released that you actually breathe through your nose. So masks need to go over their people's noses, but not everyone seems to appreciate that. So I do not want to personally encourage a super spreader event. So I personally feel that we should not be encouraging indoor public gatherings in large numbers, and council meetings and other meetings, as I've referenced, have that potential. So I think for now, we should stay virtual. Next month, it may be different. This is not, I don't see this as a license to say, oh, just let's stay virtual till the turn of the year. I think we have to re-examine it constantly. But for now, I don't see that anything has changed from what our decisions before. And I again advise we stay virtual. Does anyone else have comment? Mr. Chase.
I'd just like to comment, I've been keeping track of the 7-day running average of cases in the township. The highest level we had back at the early peak was 30 cases a day. When we met in July, it had gone down to, actually, I think there was at least one day it was below 1. And the very day we voted to go back to in-person, it went up to 3. The highest it's been since then, in the middle of August, was 14 cases a day. But it's been running at around 10 cases a day for a long time. The last several days, it's down to 8 cases a day. I'm no expert, but I think that would recommend that we continue to meet virtually until it gets a good deal lower.
Anyone else? Okay, I see no other comments. Township Attorney, would you recommend we do this until further notice to a specific date? How would you form a motion?
I think that probably the best thing to do is to form a motion to have the meetings be virtual through the end of the year, so that we can just publish the notice, and if you have to change it, you'll change it. I'm concerned about, having God forbid you set a date and for some reason you don't have a quorum on that night, we'll have one of those circumstances where we won't be able to go in and fix it. So my suggestion is that the motion be to leave the meetings virtual for the remainder of the year, or until such further time as the council decides otherwise.
Okay, but I am promising the public we will revisit this. I think that's a good suggestion logistically.
All right, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have one question. What would be the determining factor that tells us it's safe to come back outside? Is there a factor? Councilman Chase mentioned the number of deaths that are coming up. Are we relying on the governor to set the track for us, the legislator here in New Jersey to set the track for us? I know you can't predict this, and our attorney might go along with this. I don't know. But what do we have as an indicator that says, let's go back?
So Councilman Chase cites one statistic. There are many statistics, RT being, which is the rate of transmission being one, hospitalizations being another, et cetera. I cannot put a finger on a specific metric. It's the kind of thing, it's heuristic. You need to look at the environment as in its entirety. In July, when we voted to go back to in person, it was 0.4 cases a day was the 7-day average, and the RT was well under 1. I'm not going to give a parameter. It's going to be what looks right, what feels right, and it's going to be a judgment. Like I said before, government is about nuance. I can't give you a specific cutoff. I've never heard anyone in CDC or Dr. Fauci or someone say, when it gets to this number, a light switch goes off. It's more of a dimmer than a light switch.
Could I, at this point, I know our counselor, he won't put anything on the line for this, and I wouldn't either. Could we have our counselor come back and says, well, council members, they're doing this throughout the state. This is something that we should consider coming back live. This is something that we should consider and let it go as, like that, instead of you saying so, I saying so as a funeral director, someone else saying, I don't want our gut feelings to come into this. I want people to come to the meeting. I want us to come to the meeting and feel safe. So I would rather that, I don't know, before the end of the year in December or something, our attorney come back and says, well, hey, this is what the governor says, or something of that nature. And then it's up to us how we feel as the governing body to make a move, because if I'm correct or I'm wrong, going into the new year, we would have to state something going then about in person or still doing the thing by the web.
So I would argue that the job of the attorney is to advise us about legal matters, not medical matters.
That's fine. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
So if the law changes, I certainly would want to hear from our attorney.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I was going to say exactly the same thing. This is one of those things where I can render a legal opinion, but honestly, and I mean, I think we're very fortunate in Franklin that you and Dr. Chase are probably more qualified to render those kind of opinions than I am. But what I will do is this: is that there's two things that, as you know, counsel, that I'll always do, and I'll always be there to answer questions either individually or at a council meeting. I will always kind of let you know what I see as, because my firm has, we're in different counties in different parts of the state, what other people are doing and how it is that they're handling this situation. And I'll, of course, keep you posted if there is any change from the state as to guidance as to what we should do or not do. I do note, and I know that, this is me maybe going a little bit outside of my silo here, is it was right about this time last year that the euphoria of feeling like we were coming out of it turned dark, right? Businesses started to close again, and we started to do all kinds of things at this time of the year. So I think this is a good time for us to just kind of stay the course, and I will keep you posted. It's very possible that we might get a written guidance from the state on it, and let council know. And certainly, Councilman Wright, if you want to leave this kind of on for a discussion so that it's just a reminder for me to keep you updated, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anyone else have a opinion to express? So can I have a motion?
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
So we have to express the motion. So, okay, do I have a motion to continue virtual meetings until the first of the year?
I would like to make a motion that we keep our meetings virtual to the end of the 2021.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Udine,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
All right, we are now on to the, that passes. So we are virtual now until the end of the year, but I promise you, we will bring it up for discussion again. We're on to item number 10, approval of the minutes of the Township Council Work Session Regular Meeting, September 14th, 2021 are hereby presented to Township Council for approval. Excuse me, sorry. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion, any corrections? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson,
Yes.
Councilman Chase, Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Udine,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Time to pay the bills. Approval of the warrants in the amount of $3,777,923.59 on September 28th, 2021 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do I have a motion on the warrants?
I move that the warrants as read be paid.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone have a question on a particular item or like to pull an item? Madam Master Clerk. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Embarrasson,
Yes.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Udine,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
We are on. I'm sorry. Thank you, Anne Marie, for muting. We are on to the public hearings and adoption of ordinance on second reading, ordinance 4349-21, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of a conservation easement and drainage easements from SFG Newland Somerset LLC for block 517.05 lot 35.12 230 Belmont Drive is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. To have a motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are now open for public discussion of this item only. 3 minutes per person, no yielding of time may come up once. I'm sorry, Mr. McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this topic, to please use the chat function, raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone. Again, use chat function, to raise hand feature, or *3 from your telephone. Mr. Mayor, I do not see anybody indicating they would like to speak on this.
Nor do I.
I'll make motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I still see no one's hands up. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public session is closed. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is self-explanatory. It's an easement for conservation and drainage. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Udine?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, so that passes. And now we're on to ordinances on introduction and first reading. Madam Clerk, if you could mute.
Excuse me?
I was asking you to mute because when your mic is on, we get an echo.
Okay.
Excuse me. Now we're on to ordinances on the first reading. This is basically a way of letting the world know that we are considering passing an ordinance, and we announce the public session. Ordinance 4350-21, ordinance to acquire development rights by purchase over certain lands for the purpose of farmland preservation pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-13, subparagraph A, also known as the estate of Joseph Picos Senior Farm, Block 9, Lot 41, 1 Copper Mine Road, Township of Franklin, Somerset County. The foregoing ordinance is presented Township Council for adopting on first reading and posting and publication in accordance with law and final adoption at a virtual meeting of the Township Council to be held via WebEx on Tuesday, October 12th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Do I have a motion on the item? Anybody?
Motion.
So that was moved by Councilman Embarrasson, seconded by Councilman Chase. Any discussion on the item? It's basically acquiring of open space land.
Actually, it's an easement
Right,
on the land to prevent further development.
right. Thank you.
The property can then be sold to a private buyer, but with an easement. We calculate that 2 more houses could be built on it without the easement.
Thank you for the correction. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Udine?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
And now for the record-breaking shortest consent agenda, items A through G is listed in the consent agenda portion of the meeting are presented to Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, all 7 items. Does anyone want to pull an item or discuss an item? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Udine?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
We have no resolutions to be voted on separately. Old business, boards, committees, commissions, and vacancies. Does anyone have a nomination for any of the boards or committees? I hear none. There is no executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Be well, Franklin.